and there's a lot of work. But it's also good to know that help is available.
Right.
There's a lot
quite
we can
important
do.
Yes,
Yes, it is available.
Okay.
All we have to do is just find out who, thank God Kenyatta University is training speech and language therapists now, so we're going to have more people in the field.
Okay, now let's take a look at what it involves. You said even the definitive writing, you know, and the speech. I don't think we make we take the simplicity of this aspect, you know, into account. We always go to the point of, I have a cold, my voice is gone. You know, I woke up today and I'm just whispering. You know, what happens? What is happening, right? Yes. So what can lead someone to having you know, issues with their voice, for that matter?
There are many different causes for the voice, like really many. But let me just say, if you have a hoarse voice, let me just give you some of the symptoms. You can have a hoarse voice. You can have a change in pitch. Suddenly you're speaking like too high or too deep. Or sometimes you speak and you have a strangled voice. You feel you sound like you're being strangled.
Yeah.
Then there are others may have the volume is very low. You can hardly be heard, and everyone keeps on saying, increase your volume. Or there are those who suddenly speak very loud. So, and those are the symptoms. But the first, when you see those symptoms, the first person you need to see is an ENT doctor. An ENT doctor will look into your throat, and then they will tell you what's causing the change in voice. And voice is so important because just the same way you recognize your friends and family by the facial features is the same way you do with the voice.
Yeah.
You get the phone and you can already tell who's on the other side. And it becomes really stressful when there's a change in the voice. So when we have those symptoms, then there's a voice disorder. Sometimes a voice disorder would be according to the perception of the user. So you may be listening to me and you can't tell there's a difference in my voice, but I feel like, no, my voice is not right. So even that person has a voice disorder, needs to be seen by an ENT doctor, then they'll tell them. So sometimes it's just medication that they need and the voice will get better. Sometimes there's something else going on, and then they will either send me to send the person to me, the voice therapist, for voice therapy. We can have, I think, something that's really common is vocal nodules, the small growths on the vocal cords, and voice therapy does help. But then there are those that the first line would maybe be surgery. So when you have these changes in your voice, don't take it for granted. Just have it checked. It's better we screen and find that it's okay, and not screen and then there's something else going on. Yeah.
You know, you said something very important about taking it for granted. People wake up left, right, and center, you know, in the sense that your voice is not, you know, you don't feel right, you don't feel like you're articulating yourself well. Like you said, you may not feel that I have an issue, but because of how I know I speak, I know I have a problem, but I'll drink some hot water with lemon or honey and I'll be okay. And you keep doing it and you keep, you know, suppressing whatever you're feeling. So tomorrow you'll wake up and you're better. And then the next day you're not, you know, so that's taking it for granted. How do you know that you really need to get this checked before it goes to the extreme of what you're feeling?
First of all, you take your hot water with lemon. You just may feel okay for an hour or two, and then you feel your throat is dry, it passes. Then you need to go and seek help. Let somebody look at it. We are drinking, women in Kenya, we are drinking too much hot water. Just stop with the hot water. Drink room temperature water. When you feel dryness in your throat, the hot water does not help. You need to steam. Steaming is the one that helps.
With your mouth open and everything, like just with your head under?
Yes, just a few minutes, like even five minutes steam, or you can steam in the morning or evening. And especially for Remy, you are a professional voice user. First thing before you come on air, steam. Okay?
Yeah.
And reduce your coughing.
I know I'm a culprit. I won't even lie, yeah.
So, so the hot water does not give you the relief. Okay?
Yeah. But we're so used to it. It's so normal to just have any issue. I'm feeling cold. Hot water, warm water.
I don't know that. I think even my mother will not let us touch water from the fridge. And I think it's just what we've grown up. We've seen that has been practiced over and over. But we don't need that hot water. You can have your hot tea, 1 cup. You can have your morning warm water if you would like. But the rest of the day, drink room temperature water. We need to hydrate. People are not also drinking enough fluids. Okay. You need enough fluids.
How does that affect your voice when you don't drink enough fluids? You mean water in this scenario?
I mean fluids.
Generally fluids? Generally
fluids. Okay. Drink enough water, and enough water is also relative. How much is enough for a child, enough for me, enough for an 8-year-old are different.
You know, Doris, when it comes to our country here, especially Nairobi, and you say fluids, someone will tell you, I drink my alcohol there, so I am drinking fluids. I know, you know what I mean, because some people would argue that because it's part of their lifestyle. They're like, what do you mean? Yes. I'm always drinking fluids because I'm drinking this,
Yeah, so that's a valid point. By fluids, I mean water. There's water. There are juices, fresh juices. Reduce the sugar. There are fresh juices. There's soup. Soup is fluid. We have fruits. Watermelon has lots of fluid, so that's really good. Cucumber has lots of fluid in it. Okay, so don't. The alcohol should be in moderation. But again, it depends on the individual. There are people who should not be touching alcohol. So I really need, I want here to be, when you come to the clinic, then the advice is individualized to the person. Okay. And to what is happening to them at that time.
Okay. The particular causes, that of course strain your voice even more, and alcohol is part, of those, things. So you've said there are people who are not even supposed to be touching. So if you can elaborate on that, plus other causes or things that you take that worsen your voice, I think it will just, put this more into perspective.
The people who should not be taking alcohol, I think, are the ones who probably cannot control it. Okay. So you end up being alcoholic, all right? So it's that's why I'm saying it's hard. So if you cannot control, just keep away. Straining your voice, there are two things. Straining, let me talk about voice overuse, okay? Voice overuse will be the professional voice users. So we have teachers, we have you journalists, we have the clergy, you have to, musicians, yes, they have to do, musicians, you have to use your voice, okay? And then there are those who abuse their voices. Okay. This would be in situations like, let's say we go for a football match or some sports, you're there cheering, and half the time you're actually shouting instead of just raising your voice, okay? Then after that, a sports event, what do? You go out, you go clubbing. There's smoke there, there's alcohol, the music is loud. When you have loud music, that means you have to speak louder. There's smoke around you, you're inhaling that. if you're not the one smoking. So all that will cause that is vocal abuse. Children at a certain age, about 8, 9 there, actually don't speak. They just shout. They just shout all the time. Again, when they're playing, when they're out in the fields playing, they are always shouting. That is abuse. Okay? And these voice problems can be found in all populations. So we have seen at the clinic children who have vocal nodules already because of the voice abuse, the vocal abuse.
Right.
And they have to come in because now their voices are hoarse. They get tired. There are people who you speak, and then at some point you just get tired.
Yeah.
So that's vocal fatigue. There are those who feel pain, okay, speaking, and there are people who would have all those changes and they'll stop speaking.
Yeah.
Or withdraw. So somebody is withdrawing, not knowing that, oh, it's the voice is the problem, or their communication partners will not know why. Suddenly they do not want to speak.
I see. That's quite interesting. Now, let's take a look at how also mentally stress can, make one have issues with their speech. Because speech is also, we're made to understand that speech is quite, deep. If you cannot use your voice in any sense of the way, we're not just talking about, putting your voice to, matters which are pertinent. We're also speaking about, just expressing yourself, to the extent where someone is quiet. Let me give you an example. You remember Maya Angelou, one of the things she said, because of the trauma she faced while she was a young woman or young girl, she only could write. That's why we have so many of her beautiful poems, but she could not speak. She just used the medium of writing. From that example, you could elaborate how deep, this can be just from issues of speaking to mental.
Okay. So now, that will be an example from trauma. That's what we call it, selective mutism. So if we sat with her, she probably had her voice. Okay.
Yeah, she could speak, yes.
Yes, she had voice, but it was selective mutism due to the trauma. And that happens a lot. Happens to people who decide, well, due to the trauma, they'll stop speaking, okay? But they have their voice. Now, on this other extreme, we have people, due to the trauma, don't even have the voice. That means they cannot hum. Even when they laugh, there's no sound, there's no voice at all. It's quiet, silence. Okay, so those are two different cases. So there'll be selective mutism, but thank God she was able to write. And then there's the voice, as in nothing, nothing at all. And we see a lot of that also. That could be around July, and this is for the schools. Around second term, I think it's the longest term, we see quite a number of teenagers who come in with hoarse voice, some have no voice. And schools should take that seriously. If a child comes and they're whispering, please take them to be seen by an ENT doctor. They are not pretending. If you see an adult, somebody in the offices, suddenly somebody is whispering or they are not able to speak, please let them go for medical, let them see an ENT doctor, because they are not pretending. They are not pretending, and usually they're told, you're pretending, get over it. It's not a matter of just getting over it. Some of them need counseling. Some of them need counseling. We all handle stress in different ways. Yeah. So when you have long days, somebody can have a long day, sleep a few hours, wake up the next day, and function. That also is not good. You need to have proper rest. Yes. And then what happens? Your voice is affected. Okay, and we need you just sometimes it just takes a few changes just for you to be able to feel better, for you to be able to function properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's take a look at the extremes of this. You know, we've spoken about the issues that may cause, you know, in a general way. But when you have an extreme voice disorder, what are we talking about?
Extreme voice disorder will be like no voice at all. That is extreme.
And what causes that?
That could be trauma. Again, you go to the ENT first, okay? The ENT doctor looks into your throat and sees, is there a growth? Is there some growth can be, you could have something simple as just a hoarse voice, and when we go for a check, it ends up being cancerous. So those are the extreme ones. But again, it depends on each individual. So not every hoarse voice is cancer. And then, so extreme would be like you have no voice at all, okay? And then you could have been strangled. It could be an accident. It could be some other medical issues. Other medical issues also
Contribute.
Yeah, does affect your voice. You could be on medication. On medication that will affect your voice again. So I think the first thing that we need to find out is the structure okay? Are the vocal cords moving properly as they should? Okay, so in case of, let's say, like a vocal nodule, that's a growth on your vocal cord. So when the vocal cords are moving and there's that bump, they don't come to, it doesn't come together. When the vocal cords don't come together, there's space, then you'll start hearing this breathy voice because there's air escape. Okay?
I see.
And as you struggle, you're struggling to be heard, you're using so much energy, so what happens? You end up having a vocal fatigue. You get tired.
Because there's space
yes,
and there's...
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? Another thing would be environmental. There's where you have construction site, there's lots of fine dust. Okay, so people are working, but you're just breathing in that fine dust. Again, that will affect your vocal cords. There just so many, they're different things. Okay, at the salon, ladies again, at the salon, there's all this blow drying of hair.
Yeah.
There's lots of things we are inhaling. Again, that will affect somebody's vocal cords.
How does that work? Is it the heat or like the air that you're breathing from the product that's on here?
The products. You're inhaling a product.
Okay.
Yes.
So that will initially... No.
It will affect you. There are those who will start having a hoarse voice. There are those who go into coughing. It's like an allergic reaction to that.
I see.
Yes.
So when someone has identified that they're having issues with their voices and the like, and then they seek voice therapy for that matter, what does voice therapy involve? And then as you're also answering that, because, you know, eventually we're taking a short break in just a bit, you could also tell us how we speak and then we end up misusing our voice because we want to sound a particular way. I'm sure you're laughing because I know you've had patients that way. Like you just want to sound a particular way, so you start introducing things to your voice personality.
Well, that's actually a complex, I'm laughing, yes, but it's complex. Again, it's the individual, so that's a voice disorder. You can have a vocal coach, okay? Some of the people who want to sound a certain way could be actors, they could be musicians, okay? I've seen a lot of that. I want to sing on this pitch, but that's not you.
Yeah.
So you need a vocal coach, okay? I'm not a vocal coach, but I always advise people, you need a vocal coach to help you go through that. Okay?
Gradually.
Gradually, depend on what you're doing. If it's let's say for a gig, you just to prepare for that. If it's for acting, again, we as speech therapists, we can actually do accent reduction. I personally do not do that. So there's a place for that. I want to sound in a certain way. You can actually be coached to sound that way. As long as you're not abusing your voice.
That's what I'm saying. Now, the people who, it's not even about their professions or anything. They just maybe heard something on telly and they admire this particular individual and they want to sound like them. So they're doing it themselves, you know, just sounding.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I would advise that person, seek help.
I see.
It's not wrong. It's not a bad thing, but you can do it the correct way.
Got you.
Yes.
All right.
So it's not wrong.
Okay, Doris. And with that, just to hold on to that point, we're taking a short break. We'll be back with more of this conversation. Stay with us.
Step into a world of emotions, relationships.
Kumbe mama, ulikuwa unafikiria kuolewa tena? Yaani unijaleta kidogo, wewe ni mbaya.
Dilemmas and complexities of life.
Mwanamke hamhitaji mwanaume ili aweze kuwa na furaha.